This here is the great Tim Tebow from the Florida Gators. But I'm not all about sports. I love history. And I find myself buying and reading 500-page books about my favorite parts in American history. Just ask Morgan. You know, I'm a history buff, big time. Today I'm going to talk to you about one area of history that I feel like is overlooked. The Prohibition era. It's from 1920 to 1933. The Prohibition Act was passed in 1920. It prohibited the production, the transportation, and the sale of alcoholic beverages. The government intended to reduce the crime in our country, solve a lot of social issues in our country, and reduce the tax burden created by the prisons, and overall just improve the nation's overall health. People were outraged. People wanted their alcohol. And businesses wanted this act because, you know, they wanted a more clean and productive workplace. And they believed with this clean and productive workplace, it would create a better economy because at the time, the economy wasn't too great at the beginning of 1920. One group in particular pushed for this act it was the feminists, because they felt that alcohol was the fruit of all evil and that it should be gone forever, and yeah. Okay, so the public was outraged. Protests nationwide broke out everywhere, such as this protest where they were wanting their beer back. That broke out everywhere, especially in the poor. Okay. Oh, yeah. They would get their alcohol just illegally from this man here, Al Capone. Who knows Al Capone? Well, Al Capone was a notorious gangster out of Chicago, but at this time became a famous bootlegger. And bootleggers would take illegal alcohol and sell it in big cities like Chicago and New York, and they would make their money off this. Chicago's gang would run the city of Chicago with an iron fist until being brought to justice by a chief of police out of Chicago. But actually, he went to Florida, and he was still able to run his outfit off of Palm Island in Florida. How they got their illegal alcohol was through these guys, the moonshiners. Moonshiners were usually poor people. They would go up into the mountains, and they'd make this illegal moonshine. And they would cash in on this act just like the big gangs out of the big cities. They were cashing in. Well, they wanted to cash in too. They were making loads of money. They would set up camps like these in the forests and the hills of usually the Appalachians. They would take these small stills, and they would take it and distill this illegal liquor, this clear liquor, and they would sell it to these gangs so they could distribute it to the whole city in these big cities. With trying to get this shine to the big gangs, the cops were always on their tails, and they needed fast cars to get the moonshine to sell to the big gangs in the big cities. With the fast cars, you saw, you know, these small outfits in small areas. Who had the fastest car, right? Yeah, and then that's where you saw the birth of NASCAR. You know, it first started off with, you know, small little dirt tracks to now modernized to big races like Daytona 500, you know, Talladega. There were other ways of getting the alcohol. Rum runners. Rum runners would sail ships or boats over to Atlantic islands, you know, the Caribbean islands, get rum and other spirits from the native people. They would bring it back to America to distribute it to the public because everybody loves rum, right? And then there were guys like George Remus. George Remus was very smart. He studied the Prohibition Act and found a loophole in it to where the guy could actually get legal alcohol prescribed to him, and then he would sell it to the public illegally, which he would get caught, but not for a while. Many people say that George Remus is the basis of the main character of The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby guy, you know, he loves to party. He, you know, has nice cars, nice house. That was George Remus until he got arrested. You know, because every criminal, you know, gets arrested at some point. the economy during Prohibition wasn't very great because you now had to have government spending to pay for more, police, because you had people, making illegal moonshine. You got to stop that. Then you got gangs in New York and other big cities like Chicago to stop these people from distributing it to the public. The gangs would sell their illegal liquor to places like speakeasies. Speakeasies are like private bars that you usually have to have a password to get into, because there's always somebody that's going to be lurking around, knocking on the door, and getting busted. It's the cops, So the death rate during the Prohibition era rose very high because, a lot with the moonshine. Because you had amateur distillers, and they'd put in chemicals to make an amber color. Whiskey, it's not always clear. It's supposed to be amber. And the Prohibition Act was a big-time failure. It did nothing it said it was going to do. All it did was make a lot of things worse, people mad, everybody wanted their alcohol. It didn't do much that it said it was going to do. And in 1933, the 21st Amendment passed, and now happy days are beer again. So it did nothing it said it was going to do, so what do? They passed the 21st Amendment. So thanks to the 21st Amendment, we can all enjoy alcoholic beverages again. Only from 21, of course.